All right, everyone. This is the American Werewolf. I was preparing my video for Late Night with the Devil when I suddenly got this request in my comments from the Immaculate video to get a review out for Roadhouse. And so here we are talking about 2024's remake of the Patrick Swayze classic from the 90s, Roadhouse. Now, in the early 90s, I was a much younger and much less bright fellow who probably thought that I probably saw the original Roadhouse 100 times. And I just thought it was just this great film, dumb action movie. But at the time, that's the limit of, what you get exposed to. You're a young guy and, you're just watching all the dumb action you can consume. I haven't watched it in a very long time because now, 30 years later, I'm not a young man anymore. I'm not old, but I'm not young either. Or at least I'm not 21 anymore. And I know it's a ridiculous premise. It's an absolutely ludicrous premise about a bouncer played by Patrick Swayze, of all people, who just, with his fists, solves all these problems, punching everybody in the nose, kicking them in the knee. It's exactly the kind of thing someone with a underdeveloped prefrontal cortex, anyone under 25 is just going to love. Tons of getting kicked in the balls, all this sorts of stuff. Now looking back on it, I remember it fondly, but I have no desire to watch it again. However, I heard that they were making a remake with Jake Gyllenhaal. And I like Jake Gyllenhaal. I've been a fan for a long time, going back to the Donnie Darko days. And I am an enormous Conor McGregor fan. He is my all-time favorite MMA guy. I just think he's a great success story. He seems maybe, he has his issues here and there, but we all do. So I'm not going to cast the first stone at that. But he is just the ultimate success story of a guy who is living with his girlfriend on her welfare in Ireland. And is now probably worth almost $1 billion. And, the highest paid MMA fighter of all time. And then the highest paid, I think, boxer of all time in the fight against Mayweather. And now my understanding is he is the highest paid premier actor of all time for this by Amazon. And it is #1 in the world on Prime Video. If you get a chance to see it, go catch it. It's a fun movie. And this time, Jake Gyllenhaal is, taking on the mantle of Dalton, who is a retired UFC fighter who has killed someone in the ring. And now he just kind of drifts around the local fight clubs, kind of swindling fighters on his name and reputation and, grabbing the prize money and then just kind of walking off into the sunset. And he gets hired by a young business owner who owns a bar down in the Keys, and she needs a bouncer, a head bouncer, because, people are wrecking the place all the time. And the usual hijinks ensue. There aren't really, that many, there isn't a great deal of character development here. This is, for people that are looking for the tragedy of Michael Corleone or are comparing it to the first movie. Oh my God, they don't have this. Yeah, they don't have the hairspray and all the sweat, and by that, the hairspray was half the guys. Back then in the 90s. You just have a dumb action movie with guys just punching each other and kicking each other and hitting each other with 2x4s and this, that, and the other. And that's the entire premise of Roadhouse. Now, if you want something that's, maybe a little more intense, you could probably go with something like Liam Neeson's Taken. Where, he's a trained killer, or Man on Fire with Denzel Washington, or the Equalizer trilogy, where, he's there to sort of restore order, but he has the training to do what more than one average guy can do. Here, those characters, they have weapons training and interrogation and kidnapping, and, they're proficient in firearms and knife fighting and hand-to-hand. Here, everybody's just bare knuckling it the entire way. There are a couple of guns that get pulled here and there, but basically it's a fun movie. I enjoy Jake Gyllenhaal in just about, he's one of those guys. In the last movie I saw Jake Gyllenhaal in was in Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. So Jake Gyllenhaal typically does movies that are fairly well received critically. He's a serious actor. You could see him in something like Donnie Darko. Excuse me, like I said, you can see him in something like Denny Villeneuve's Prisoners with Hugh Jackman. Some people argue that's Villeneuve's best work. Or you can see him now, doing something like this. You could see him in Nightcrawler. There are all sorts of good options for checking out some Jake Gyllenhaal. So I'm a big fan. Seeing Conor McGregor in his acting debut was just fantastic because he is just absolutely absurd. And you get the impression that he's kind of Conor McGregor. If Conor McGregor was a WWE superstar, ramping himself all the way up to 100, because whether you like him or you don't like him, and he's one of those guys that he elicits a strong response one way or the other, you can't deny that he's a very intelligent businessman. Like I said, from going all the way, from, being a welfare recipient or living off of his girlfriend's welfare now to, being an extremely wealthy businessman. I think he sold that Proper 12 label for $600 million. I think he's got 2 yachts. His children's children will probably never have to work a day in their lives. And like he said, his girlfriend, who he's still with, probably has a different car for every day of the week. So he is an incredibly intelligent person and a good mind for business. I admire him a great deal and what he's been able to accomplish. He just plays it to the wall. Just this, he looks like he's just this feral, sort of creature that just goes around beating the shit out of everyone. Even including the people that supposedly are hiring him to come in and finish Dalton. You're not really sure who the villains are. There's the son of a guy who inherits the issues that his father had before the father goes off to prison. And I think there's basically like some shot of the father making a phone call to bring in Conor McGregor's character, but you never really get a good look. There's no great character development here or anything like that. There's no depth or anything like that, and you don't need it. You don't need it. If you're not a fan of just dumb action, then don't watch it. I suggest that you do watch it, but if you're one of those people that, think somehow that the 91 version or whenever Patrick Swayze dropped that movie is just like this all-time action classic, you probably need to reconsider that. I mean, if you're looking at an all-time classic from that era, I would probably go with Predator. I would probably go with Aliens. Those are all-time like GOAT level action films, sci-fi, horror, whatever you want to call them. Roadhouse was just a dumb sort of B-movie with Patrick Swayze that is very enjoyable. And you had the delicious Kelly Lynch back then. You had the Jeff Healey band ripping it. You had some great blues music playing in the background, had a great score, great soundtrack going on all the time. This isn't that. This feels a little safer, a little bit. But then again, it is a different time. And so I don't walk into it expecting it to be better. I go in expecting it mostly to be the same. And for the most part, that's what I got. I had a lot of fun with it. I don't see any reason why anyone should hate this movie because it's not important enough to hate. It's just like somebody had some spare money and said, you know what, fuck it. Let's make a Roadhouse sequel. Let's get Jake Gyllenhaal. Let's get some real people in here. Let's get Jake Gyllenhaal. Let's pay Conor McGregor a ton of money to come in and just ham it up and have fun and, release it for everybody. I think that it's a smart move dropping it on Prime. It's #1 in the world. I hope it lasts on there a couple of weeks. That would give me a good feeling. I'm glad that they went this format. And so while I was sick, moving between the bed and the couch, I managed to sprawl on the couch for like 2 hours and just watch some Roadhouse. And it brought back some nostalgia. And I did a little comparison here and there. And the music's not nearly as good. But I still had a great time. And I think that you should definitely watch it. I'm giving it 3 out of 5 just for fun's sake. No expectations, because guess what? It's a ridiculous premise. Bouncers do not get to take out low-level mob bosses with their fists, even if they're UFC fighters. So enjoy the film. Go see it on Prime. That's my video. My thanks to Dino Dinosaur for this request. I'm happy to put it out there and to get the word out on this very fun movie. I will see you all in the next movie. I have the Late Night with the Devil movie coming later on this evening. All the best, everybody, and have a great day. God bless. All right, bye-bye.